the building has gone through, that also is gone when the building is lost.
And we've been showing these images earlier from the 90-meter high spire. This is live images, by the way. If you're just joining us, this is the situation that is taking place right now. These are live images of the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. It is on fire right now. The roof has collapsed. The spire has collapsed, and this is an image that we've been showing from earlier, about an hour ago, and that is of that 90-meter spire that dates back to the 19th century, right? The 19th century. So just seeing that spire collapse, Meredith, I think there was a collective gasp, and you can even hear that. You can even hear the gasp from the crowd there as they watch this take place. What is the significance of the loss of that spire?
It is a 19th century spire rebuilt by Viollet-le-Duc and Jean-Baptiste Lassus. And so it's, more recent than the rest of the lower part of the building, but still it's, a historic monument nonetheless, and that cannot be replaced. And Viollet-le-Duc in the 19th century was a prodigious restorer. He's defined restoration in France, and that was one of the first buildings to be restored and, among the first few. So it's, a chapter of history that's lost when the spire falls down. I'm concerned about the vaults and the older stuff, but certainly in 200, 300 years, right, we will value 19th century restoration as much as we value the, things that are further away from us in time. So that also is a testament to its own history, to its post-revolutionary, hopes about the French nation coming together as a modern country. That's what that spire is about. So it's a terrible loss.
We are hearing that the 16 statues, and you can tell us more about this, Meredith, that they had been removed because there are these renovations, these restoration projects that have been taking place in the cathedral, that they had been removed. So they are safe. Good. So tell me about the significance of that.
Are they the statues that were in the spire?
They are the statues that were, control room, help me, are they the statues that were outside? Where were the statues, the 16 statues that were saved? They were outside. They were overlooking. So these are the statues that were outside that were overlooking and that they were removed.
Right. Well, that's good. So any restoration project should take away, things that are delicate of that nature. I mean, before they restore. I really hope it's not negligence that caused this fire. That's all I can say. But there are all kinds of wonderful parts of this building that have been taken away and are restored. I mean, the front on the facade, you have what's called the Gallery of Kings. Those sculptures facing the front, facing the plaza, as you walk up to Notre Dame, those were beheaded and buried in the French Revolution around 1789, 1790, and then they found them in a different place as someone in France they were going to build a bank, and so they had to excavate, some of the land to build the foundations, and they found all of those decapitated sculptures, and it's called the Gallery of Kings. They're Old Testament kings, but they were often confused or sort of merged with notions of, the French kings. So they're kind of overlaid with these meanings. And those sculptures are in the Musée National du Moyen Âge, Théâtre de Cluny, at Cluny in Paris still. Those are saved, and then you have copies on the front facade. But what really is at loss here are the many different layers of history that went into this building, starting in 1160, and then it's continually different parts of it are reshaped and reformed over time. So it's, that's what's, being destroyed. I'm just shocked. I'm really in a state of shock, trying to conceive of how how thorough the damage is. Are all the vaults destroyed? Really, on the inside, I find this, it's just totally unbelievable and incomprehensible to me. Since I do, work, it's been around for so long. It's hard to believe that such an act of negligence would be so devastating.
We don't know the cause at this point. We don't know how this fire started. We know that the Paris prosecution's office is looking into this, so we'll have to find that out. That we don't know. I'm going to try, and I think we should, I'm speaking to my control room, I'm speaking to you, but we should try and find out about some of the interior and some of the you've been raising, Meredith, this question of the crown, the crown of thorns and the significance of that. And I don't know what has happened to that.
I knew that would.
But tell me the significance of it.
Well, it is believed to be the relic of the crown of thorns of Christ. So let's not panic yet, because that was in the cathedral treasury. And I'm hoping that they would have gone into the treasury as soon as the fire broke out and taken all the, gold reliquaries and the different sacred relics out of the treasury before. And it is a little bit off to the side of the cathedral, so hopefully they will have taken it out. But as far as what is the crown of thorns, it is believed to have been the crown of thorns that was placed on Christ's head during his crucifixion. Well, during his passion, let's say, and then he was crucified. Oddly enough, this week, right, we're Palm Sunday started on Sunday, so this is the week of Christ's Passion, this actual week. And then he would have been crucified on Friday, this coming Friday would be Good Friday, and then Easter is Sunday. So the crown of thorns is part of the Passion of Christ, and it is believed that Constantine's mother, Helena, went to the Holy Lands in the late, around 330, and found these relics of Christ and brought them to Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul. They're not attested as being part of the treasury there until, I think, 8th or 9th century. They were held in Constantinople, and then they were exchanged with the French king who went on to become Saint Louis, but it was Louis IX of the Capetian dynasty. He exchanged funding for military support in exchange for the crown of thorns and other relics to be brought to France. This was seen as a major sort of translation of imperial power, and really a sign at the time in, it happened in 1237. It was seen to be an act of God, that God wanted the French king to have the crown of thorns. It's a very symbolic relic, right, sort of justifying the French monarchy. So it's kind of the basis of a French monarchy that is rooted in a kind of notion of sacral kingship, that God has approved the French kings to be the ascendant, strongest, best, all of the kings of Europe. And it is, one of those steps towards absolutism, to have a kind of divine right to rule as king. So that's what the crown of thorns is about. It was originally placed in the Sainte Chapelle of Paris that Louis IX built a whole chapel for. It's really just 200 meters away. That still remains. But the Sainte Chapelle also suffered in the French Revolution, and so the crown of thorns was, removed and then placed in the treasury of Notre Dame. So normally in Notre Dame on this Friday, they would have taken the crown of thorns out and processed it around. It would have been a big part of the liturgy and of the Easter celebrations.
And this is what we're actually, Meredith, we're looking at the crown of thorns right now. This is an image of the crown of thorns, and I don't think we know what's happened to it. I don't know whether it was removed or not. Maybe that's something that we're able to find out, but that is of significance for those who believe this to have been the crown of thorns that was placed on Jesus Christ's head before he was crucified, so of serious significance for those who believe that. And Meredith, let me ask you a little bit about the last time you were in Paris, or the last time you visited the Notre Dame Cathedral, and its meaning and significance for you.
I was there last month, actually, and I was doing research in Paris. I am a specialist of Gothic architecture, so I go there fairly regularly to look at these things, but it's significant for me because it's a part of, world cultural heritage, understanding who we all are, how we got to be here, the institutions of power as they're expressed through art and architecture. And, one of the things that makes Paris such a special place are these monuments that are old and still a living, breathing part of the city, and still really have been standing there for 1,000 years. So, not only do I study them to understand things about the Middle Ages, but I also study these things and teach them, to undergraduates who are from California and from the U.S. who don't really see things that are so old as a kind of, directly related to modern life in such a close way. It's kind of like, a quick time machine, if you will, as a way to understand history and our relationship to it. And it's a huge, this particular building being such a symbol of Paris and of France, it's really, I am in a state of shock. I cannot believe, that it's being destroyed. I hope that they can save it. That's kind of where I am now.
Yeah.
It means that much to me that I'm sort of in such a state of shock, really.
Meredith, if you'll just hold on there, I can tell you the CBC's Arthi Pohl is here with me in studio in Toronto, and as we've been trying to figure out what's gone, what has been saved, and the key question that Meredith has been asking Arthi is the crown of thorns. What have you been able to figure that out on
Right.
that?
So what we've just seen is we are monitoring, of course, local media in Paris itself, and there's at least one journalist who is saying essentially that reporting good news that all of the works of art were saved and the treasure of the cathedral is intact, the treasury, as you were mentioning there. The crown of thorns, the holy sacraments are safe. That is an initial report we're seeing from a journalist in Paris itself. So, of course, waiting for confirmation on that. But that would be good news if we can get confirmation, of course. So that is one piece of information that is developing right now.
And so, so Meredith, there you have it. We have yet to confirm all of this, but that would certainly be something that you would be celebrating. And and what we're showing right now, and this is quite an image, Meredith, but just what we're showing our viewers right now is an image of the interior of the Notre Dame Cathedral before this fire. And so the beauty of it is just quite astounding. Can you just describe the significance of the interior of this iconic building, what it was and what it is in many ways no more?
So, built around 1160, but on an older structure. This is the church dedicated to Our Lady, to the Virgin Mary, who is a protector of medieval France. And the church was built, pretty much between, in one fell swoop, between around 1160 to about 1220, by Maurice de Sully, the Bishop of Paris. It was the most ambitious construction project at the time in terms of, size and scale. It was a huge urban undertaking. He had to destroy parts of the extant city to get the stones there. And it really was a sign of the power of the bishop, who was essentially the leader of Paris at the time. The kings were itinerant and just sort of, moving around. So it was really a symbol of episcopal power in the Middle Ages. And imagine what it would have been to come up through the River Seine and to see this incredible building that was so huge, standing there. And, that could be seen from many, many miles away. It was the tallest building in the entire city at the time. So founded that way, but, also there were earlier iterations of this cathedral even prior to the 12th century construction of it. That's just our latest iteration. Then there are different remodeling campaigns on Notre Dame. The facade is done between 1200 and 1220. Most of the vaults are done by then, but as soon as the first iteration of the church is done, they build new chapels on it between 1220 and about 1350, 400. There's a whole belt of chapels going around the cathedral. The transept facades, where the spire probably fell, those were done around 1250s to 1270s. Those architects are named. The beautiful rose windows, those are, I really hope those aren't destroyed yet. Those are masterpieces of what we call Rayonnant architecture, which is a style of architecture that's very much associated with Parisian production from the mid-13th century, artistic production that went throughout France and throughout Europe at the time. It's this period of art is what gave Paris its cachet as the center of art and of fashion. It goes back to this artistic period and this period of time. And those two transept facades on the side of Notre Dame really are, the kind of symbols of that artistic ascendancy of Paris in the Middle Ages. What we know, or when we think of Paris as the city of art and the city of fashion, it really goes back to the Middle Ages, and it goes back to this building. And, so the building is complete around 1400, 1500. It had a great cathedral school. It had great music associated with it. It is at the origin of modern-day universities as well. The University of Paris being one of the first, starting with the Cathedral School of Notre Dame. So it's a whole center, of art and intellectual life in the Middle Ages that out of which, all of this came from Notre Dame. So it's kind of worth preserving. So I really hope they can stop this fire as soon as possible.
Well, in fact, Meredith and Arthi is here with me in studio. Their spokesperson for the Paris Fire Department says that the next hour and a half is crucial in order to see if the fire at the Notre Dame Cathedral can be contained. So this is still an ongoing fight. It is now after 9 o'clock. It's 20 to 10 local time in Paris. So this fire is now almost into its fourth hour. It's been going for 3 hours since just before 7 p.m. local time. And so the next hour and a half, according to the Paris Fire Department, is crucial. I can also tell you, Meredith, thank you. That is UCLA art historian Meredith Cohen, specializing in medieval art and architecture. With more on all of this, we're joined by the CBC's Arthi Pole. And before I bring you in, Arthi, I just want to mention that there's been some reaction here in Canada, around the world, obviously, to this. The Prime Minister says, Justin Trudeau has tweeted, absolutely heartbreaking to see the Notre Dame Cathedral in flames. Canadians are thinking of our friends in France as you fight this devastating fire. Andrew Scheer, my heart breaks to see the iconic Notre Dame Cathedral up in flames. Notre Dame's majesty and beauty have captured the hearts of millions worldwide, praying for everyone's safety and a speedy response. And in fact, we can tell you that so far, from what we know, no one has been injured by this fire. That seems to just be massive. It is massive. It is a massive fire.